Maybe you will answer all the questions I have asked. Maybe you will be the one to make all this suffering worth something in the end. Now, listen.
It wasn't really worth it. If you were to ask me what is the most disappointing storyline in Assassin's Creed, the first thought that comes to mind is the Juno story arc that started in 2012 and ended in 2018. And the biggest reason why comes all down to her presence, influence and involvement in the storyline, or better to say, the lack thereof. A villain or an antagonist is someone who opposes and forms a threat to the main hero, the main protagonist or multiple protagonists of the story. They have their own ideas and goals in mind and have the ways to achieve them. Sometimes they even create the story and adventures of the main heroes by killing a loved one or doing something that upsets them basically. As an example of this inside the Assassin's Creed franchise, I will grab Assassin's Creed 2. In Assassin's Creed 2, we follow for the majority of the storyline Ezio Auditore, our protagonist. He's a man of noble wealth and comes from a loving family, but all of this gets ruined by the Templar Order, by publicly executing his father and brothers for treason which they didn't commit. This event ruins Ezio's life as he knows, and he has to flee his home, the city he grew up in with his mother and sister, or else they are basically screwed too. They flee over the countryside and get ambushed by Viri the Pazzi, a member of the Templar Order and arch enemy of Ezio Auditore. Luckily for Ezio and his remaining family, they get rescued by the assassin Mario Auditore, the brother of his father and uncle Ezio.
It's a me, Mario!
Uncle Mario?
It's been too long, Nipote. Far too long. I heard what happened in Firenze. Terrible.
He gives his nephew and mother and sister a roof above their heads and helps Ezio to get revenge on the Templar Order. This might be a little bit off topic here, but I do think that by making Mario a leader of a town and owning a nice villa undermines the idea and concept of making Ezio a noble to begin with who comes from a rich family. I know the villa is in a bad shape just like the town, which you can restore, but it was a golden wasted opportunity here to see Ezio struggle to adapt to a new lifestyle, or better to say to a more normal lifestyle. But we can't really do that because Ezio is barely home in the storyline of Assassin's Creed 2. He grew up in a giant house and ran away with his mother and sister to his uncle who offers him and his mother and sister on a silver plate that they can sleep on his giant roof. At least his revenge quest stays untouched. Back to topic, the Templars here are the opposite of Ezio. They are the antagonists, the villains, however you want to call them. They want control over Italia and want entrance to the Vatican Vault and will encounter Ezio many times throughout the storyline. They will also influence the world around them, making them an actual threat that can be ignored. And only Ezio and the assassins can deal with them, and so this basically gives us a good reason to play as an assassin. The thing with Juno is that she's not really needed, which is pretty hilarious if you think about it, because she appeared in almost every Assassin's Creed game to date, plays a major role in the comic books, and is a member of the first civilization. Why is that? Beside the obvious I've already stated in the beginning of the video, Juno doesn't move the plot forward. She doesn't influence the world and characters in any meaningful way, but still she gets a lot of credit and is treated like a huge threat. And in concept, they are right. The idea of a first civilization antagonist is pretty great on paper and blew my mind in 2012. The first civilization carried humanity to science. They had advanced technology and left behind a huge legacy on the world that inspired many cultures and religions. And they also influenced the technology we have in today's society.
To be fair, we don't invent them. We find them.
Find them.
They're gifts, Mr. Miles, from those who came before.
Now imagine a person like Juno is unleashed on the world. Some people think that she is just the Antichrist or God itself and will follow her regardless of what she does. The first civilization was also a lot smarter than us. How much smarter, you ask? Well, imagine you and Einstein himself have 1 hour to solve world's hardest math quizzes, okay? You both are sweating and exhausted and have 5 minutes left to solve the last 10 questions. And it already took you 55 minutes to solve 5 of the 15. A person like Minerva concepts will probably already finished and like a half hour ago or more, and are probably on their way now to Hawaii to enjoy a warm summer vacation. Plus they were basically able to speak across time.
In time, she too stopped looking, and instead began to speak. She called out across time in the hopes that you might be saved.
However, Juno comes over as a huge idiot. In Assassin's Creed 3, we learn that Juno tried to manipulate the eye, you know, the artifacts used to save the world from the incoming global catastrophe for her own goal to enslave the world.
I will explain. While we worked to save the world, she sought instead to conquer it. She used our machine to set her plans in motion.
You are a cunt, 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 cunt. And if that stinking cunt said ain't true, but me tell you you're motherfucking cunt.
So when Minerva and Jupiter found out about Juno's treachery, they murdered her, or at least they thought they did. Juno survived the attempt on her life and was able to transfer her consciousness inside the Kent Temple to live on forever. Basically the Matrix, fooling Minerva and Jupiter. But during those events she lost her body and was stuck in the temple for more than 70,000 years. And that was probably her biggest accomplishment in her life, besides putting Desmond in a coma for a short time period. You could try to argue that Juno convincing Connor to become an assassin was important as well, but it's giving her a little bit too much credit here. Connor already had motivations to join the Assassin Brotherhood before he actually met her. Juno only told him to search for this symbol, but Connor didn't know where to look and so he needed help from the Clan Mother. Juno's role here could have been given to the Clan Mother, and the Assassins do often hide the pieces of Eden. But this will not be enough to call Juno an idiot or unnecessary here, and I agree. Juno got freed out of the temple through sheer dumb luck. Minerva warns Desmond that if he touches the eye, Juno will be unleashed on humanity and she will enslave us all. Desmond believes that we humans are able to stop Juno and letting the world burn its worst because there is no hope there. Desmond chooses not to listen to Minerva, who is 100 times smarter than him or something close to that, who speaks across time just to warn him about what's gonna happen. This can be argued as a bad choice or a good one, or there are no bad choices here because there's an extreme grey area. But it doesn't really matter anymore because Juno does absolutely nothing in the end. After 2012, Juno's still working on her world's domination plans. She needs a vessel to walk the earth again, so she decides she wants a fully fledged Isu body. One time, she wants everyone to live inside a computer simulation so she control the world and everyone in it. And the other time, she just wants to walk the earth. Juno has no clear plan here, and so do the writers here. Now let's talk more about her influence and presence in the games a bit more in depth. In AC Unity, no one seemed to care that she was out there planning God knows what. The reason why is that no one knew in the historical segments in the game that Juno will be unleashed in the future on the world. Even in the modern segments, they treat it like that never happened. AC Rogue ignores her too for the most part of the game, and she's just reduced to side content that no one ever bothered with. But still, they hype her up as a threat, but she doesn't do anything. The only games where she seems to have some influence in is in Assassin's Creed Black Flag and in Syndicate. In Black Flag, she speaks to the modern protagonist one time, and in the past segment, Edward Kenway has to deal with Robert, a sage, a human being with the memories of the husband of Juno, Aita. But still, she gets a lot of credit here for creating the sages. But the thing here is that she doesn't deserve that much credit either. Yes, she created the sages, but all of Aita's actions are his own. He does it out of his own free will. He is not brainwashed, so far we know, by Juno to do her bidding. He is just simply in love with her for the sake of plot, but becomes a more of a threat than Juno herself because he is an active force. In Syndicate, she appeared in a historical segment by contacting the Initiate and transporting you to a World War II simulation, making you lose contact with the modern day assassins. But even here, she's just a flying talking head throwing exposition at you about stuff you already know. And then we're left to wonder what she's gonna do next. All what Juno is a flying talking head that makes you think that she is important, but she isn't. Violet shot the modern day assassin Rebecca Crane out of her own free will. Not Juno, but she still gets treated like she's a big thing in the end of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, who will save us all from herself, and she hides up the sequel. But if we exclude the end plot twist where it gets revealed that Violet is a follower of Juno, it does not add anything to Violet shooting Rebecca Crane here. Violet shot Rebecca here because she is an assassin And true, Rebecca and her friends attacked them, so it could be argued as self-defense. But still, there's an alternative motive here for Violet why she does all of these things. However, Violet here is the bigger threat of the two. She betrayed her order for Juno and shot Rebecca. By shooting Rebecca, she was able to escape with the Shroud of Eden, and the assassin Galena was not able to finish off the Templar Otzelberg and needed to escort a wounded Rebecca Crane out of the room. All of this was done by Violet and not Juno. Hell, she got lucky that Rebecca didn't stab her with an hidden blade, nor does this even change the dialogue between Violet and Juno in the end of the game. Juno has no reason to be here. The only characters she has a connection with besides Violet and the Sages are Sean, Rebecca, William and Galena. Sean was slowly getting depressed. Desmond died who he considered a friend, but the problem here lies that he does not blame Juno for it. Let me explain more in detail. It was Desmond's own personal choice to save the world by sacrificing himself for others. But Sean does not bring up Juno on screen because she cannot really be responsible for his death because he was gonna die anyway if he touched the eye, and it was his own personal choice.
To me, he just wasn't invested in anything that didn't affect him personally. But I was wrong about him. He became my friend, put himself through hell, and he saved us all in the end. So I reckon, well, I can't apologize to him, but I can try and live up to his example.
Rebecca names all the drones after her fallen friends, which includes Desmond and Lucy Stillman. But never does she bring up Juno on screen. If you think about it, Rebecca and Sean lost two of their friends because of the first civilization meddling. The world was gonna end, and so they put Desmond on a path to save it. But along the way, these two lost their friends who they will never get back. Hell, it could be theorized that maybe the first civilization let the Great Purge happen in the modern day era, so that everything went according to plan. But that's just a theory. Sean and Rebecca could develop some form of hatred against the first civilization here, because everything they have done brought them nothing more than pain and suffering, but this becomes never a thing. However, Rebecca can't blame Juno for the death of Lucy anymore, because Desmond said it was his choice to kill her when he came in contact with the Apple of Eden.
It was the apple, son. It was Juno.
I saw what she was. What would happen if I let her live? I could have stopped myself. I mean, there was a force there. But I didn't have to. I chose to.
So if you think about it, she should be a bit more distant towards Desmond, but not blame him entirely, because Desmond saw what would have happened if Lucy stayed alive. But in my opinion, this entire scene is a retcon. In the beginning, we were left to believe that Desmond killed Lucy because of the apple and Juno, but then Desmond tells us that it was his choice to kill her. If you think about it, if this scene never happened, he could blame Juno in the end of the game for killing Lucy, but he can't because he believed he killed her himself. It's almost like they're trying forcefully not to connect these characters too much to Juno, but at the same time they do. I won't be surprised if this scene was especially written so Desmond won't start arguing with Juno over the death of Lucy. But by doing so, they wasted a lot of potential for character growth for the entire modern day cast. William Miles is not present anymore for a very long time until Origins came around, because he was depressed off screen. Juno was involved with the death of Galena's mother, but never does he bring it up. Not even in the Uprising comic book series, where Galena actually has to try to oppose Juno. Which brings us to the comic books. I love expanded medium. It can be a great entry point for people who don't like to play games, but are interested in the Assassin's Creed world regardless. Not only that, but expanded medium can give you a lot more insight in a certain fictional world and increase your enjoyment of the product. By doing so, you can keep your franchise longer alive and increase the size of your fanbase, etc. You get the point, it's great. So long you don't force it on people. Ubisoft and the writers decided to put the Juno story arc in the comic books because most people didn't even know who she was, and most of these people are newcomers who never played the previous games, and I can fully understand why old fans or fans who are heavily invested like myself get mad at the newcomers, but I can't entirely blame them. But seriously, who starts in the middle of a giant franchise? Ubisoft and the writers just did a terrible job. To fully understand Juno, you need to play at least 10 games or so to understand the character and the current situation for only a small portion of the games. And it doesn't really help that they release a game every year, so it will be hard to keep track of all of it. To understand the Assassin's Creed comic book series Uprising, not only do you need to play all the main titles, no, we had to go further than that. If you want to know what happened to Juno, you first need to read all the comics that include Charlotte de la Cruz before reading Uprising, plus the Templar comic book series, and all of this for just a disappointing ending. Ubisoft has no interest in that newcomers must play the previous games or at least one to understand the next one, or else there will be a narrative barrier for new players. But that brings us to the question, why even consider an overarching story after Desmond? In the comic, Juno is treated like a big threat, and yes, it makes more sense this time around, but hear me out first. In Uprising, the reason why Osterberg decides to work with the assassins is because her fellow followers are everywhere and nowhere and they beated him up. And that I find pretty hilarious because Juno didn't do anything herself, she just let someone else do it for her. They only fear her of what she can become in the future if she has a body. But currently right now, she hasn't. And when Juno has a body, she goddamn fucking dies. Are you fucking kidding me? Sorry if I sounded a little bit emotional there, but if you have been invested into a storyline for 6 years which doesn't really go anywhere, you do get a little bit pissed. Her followers are taken care of moments later, and nothing of this has affected the world in any way. Juno survived an attempt on her life by Minerva and Jupiter. She almost conquered the world. She fooled her fellow First Civilization members by surviving the attack on her life. Her consciousness was stored in the Grand Temple, so she was able to survive for more than 70,000 years. She's one of the last remaining members of her race, and when she finally got a body, she died by a simple stab wound and got blown up by Otzelberg. So basically wasting 6 years of your investment. All of this, if you ask me, seems more like a dirty, cheap trick to keep people hooked for the sequel. We have subverted their expectations, better to say, but all of that means nothing if you don't do anything with it. And Minerva comes over pretty retarded here. I mean, what was she afraid of? Any child could kill Juno. It doesn't matter if it was done on purpose. It could be an accident. I want you to examine with me what would have happened if Juno was never released. Never turned evil, never created the sages, okay? For the first 2 main games, she was not present except only in name.
The others too. Juno, who was before called Uni.
But I doubt that was important because Assassin's Creed was only meant to be in trilogy back then, if I remember correctly. She appeared in Brotherhood and showed Desmond what would have happened if Lucy was still alive. But let's just rewind that for a moment, okay? Imagine instead of Juno being there, it's Minerva, and Lucy never turned to the Templars, okay? Instead, she will confront with Desmond Warren Fiddick in Assassin's Creed 3. She and Desmond have the most personal connection with Warren Fiddick anyway, so why not? Or she could just die in Assassin's Creed 3 by saving Desmond and everyone else, but that will mean another love interest has to die. The only change, story-wise, will be Desmond's coma and why we relived Ezio's memories in AC Revelations, and her presence in the ending. But we can just write another reason why Ezio was reliving Ezio's memories in Assassin's Creed Revelations. The point still was that Desmond needed to go to the Grand Temple. Everything inside the temple will be the same. Juno will replace with Minerva this time around though. The whole Minerva versus Juno thing doesn't exist, and in the end Desmond saves the world and still dies. Nothing of value will be lost. Just rewrite the whole Sage thing, remove the World War segment from Syndicate or make it a hidden unlockable mode, and change a few emails or dialogue here and there. She is that irrelevant. Her biggest motivation to hate humanity, besides just being disgusted by her very existence, is that we killed her father.
Hang on, I feel like this whole exercise is just about making up for the fact that your dad didn't love you. And believe me, I get that, but come on.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I just not make her a full-time racist.
That's racist.
You're racist.
She's already disgusted by us and has a view and mentality close to that of the Templar Order. So maybe she could blame the death of her entire civilization on us because the whole Humanisa War, which did indeed distract him from the tobacco catastrophe that was about to hit the Earth. Just remove the death of her father, it doesn't matter. I know it isn't really creative, but come on! She could have taken over the entire world. She could have attacked you inside the Animus and so much more. Maybe she could have started in the modern day apocalypse. But Juno is nothing more than just a joke. And if she somehow survived being stabbed by Charlotte and being blown up by Altenburg, I'm gonna question why even bother killing off to begin with. And how are we able to kill her if Minerva of all people wasn't even able to kill her? What are you going to tell me if she returns? A Shroud of Eden did it? Thanks for watching. I hope you have a fun day or night wherever you are.